Wenn man das so macht, dann wird die Schraube öffnet, dann wird das in einer Zeit runter und die kaputt und geht das nicht mehr. Wenn man die Schraube öffnet, müsste man einfach runterdrücken.
Io ho visto che bisogna imparare quando mantra.
Weil sonst will er die Schraube, dann geht es immer runter. Das ist eine Prinzessin. Und eine englische Bhagavad-Gita wollte ich dann mitnehmen. Vishnu Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Stotra Shatashi Srimad Esi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Om Vishnu Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Stotra Shatashi Srimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jaya Guru Parampara Ki Jaya Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jaya Shri Shakur Swami Prabhupada Ki Jaya Prem Sekara Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi, Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath, Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Madhu Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Shri Navavimaya Padam Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puridam Ki Jai, Gauradesh Dham Ki Jai, Iskana International Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Muna Maya Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Shishi Guni Harinam Sakitanya Ki Jai, Transcendental Book and Prasad Distribution Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Kranta Rod Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jai Nita Guru Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada. So, Hare Krishna, thank you very much for your kind presence and eager listening. Now we will, before reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we will read from the Transcendental Diary. Travels with His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, November 1975 until April 1976 by Hari Shauri Prabhu. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada is here in Gujarat, in Zanand. Oh, sorry. And this is the last passage from this day.
Which day?
This is the 26th of December. And it starts after this verse, Kirata Hundra Pulinda Pulkasha. So, ich werde nochmal diesen Vers lesen, weil das hängt damit zusammen. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.4.18 by Srila Shukadeva Goswami. Kirata Hundra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shambha Yavana Kasaraya Yen Yecha Papa Yada Pashraya Shraya Shadyanti Tasmaya Prabha Vishnavi Namaha. So it does not matter where we are born. If we take to Krishna consciousness, then he becomes a Shuddha, Shuchi, purified, and he is eligible to go back to whom? Back to Godhead. Later in the lecture, Srila Prabhupada again displayed his determination to challenge the atheistic scientists, whom he described as asuric. Their main proposal is that there is no creator, God. The modern scientists, philosophers, Western people, they don't accept that God is the creator of everything. And their theory of creation is the chemical composition. They think that chemical combination is the cause of life. So the Asura's theory of creation is a chance theory, but we don't accept. We are preaching against them, writing books against them. We are challenging the atheistic theory of creation. The Krishna consciousness movement is against the Asuras. Krishna also comes down to kill the Asuras. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam. Asuras cannot flourish by their atheistic theory. Unless one comes to Krishna consciousness, he has to be put into different types of asuric yoni, lowest species, to suffer in this material world. He summarized by explaining how easy it is to become Krishna conscious, urging everyone to adopt the universal panacea given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To take to this Krishna consciousness is made very easy during this Kali Yuga. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyeva 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 Gatyanyata. Kalau, in this age, if you take to Krishna consciousness, simply chant Hare Krishna mantra, then you become Devata. This is our program. So our only request is to you that in whatever position you are, it does not require to be changed. Simply take to Krishna consciousness. Chant Hare Krishna Maha mantra and gradually you will become Devata. That is the recommendation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Stane sita shruti-gatam tanuvan manubhir. Remain in your place, but be Krishna conscious. It is not difficult at all. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. The crowd was clearly impressed. I doubt anyone had ever spoken so directly and forcefully to them. Yet they appreciated it. Even though it was very late, most of the audience stayed after Prabhupada left to see a film depicting Krishna consciousness around the world. Jai Prabhupada ki jai. So does someone has whatever you remarked, some interesting point or something you're wondering about, what sprang to your attention? For me, the beginning, this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.4.18, Kirata Hundar Hundandra Pulita Pulkasha, and so weiter, and the end are very significant because Srila Prabhupada says it does not matter where we take birth, and when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one automatically becomes Shuddha, Shuchi, purified, eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. And then in the end he says that this process of Krishna consciousness has been made very easy. One can remain where one is and one simply needs to chant Hare Krishna. So we know this verse from Shri Shikshashtakam. Chetudapanamajanam Bhavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shayakarava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivaranam Patipadam Punamrita Svaranam Savatma Snapanam Param Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. And this verse starts with Chetu Dharpanamajanam. That means the mirror of the heart is cleansed. And then, what is the result? We can taste the highest nectar for which we are always anxious, which we are always looking, step after step. So this is very auspicious. And then, befitting Srimad Bhagavatam, we will see today also the sharp contrast. Padam yatvi padam natesham. In the material world, every step is full of dangers. And if we are not performing yagyas, sacrifices to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we have to endure the reactions of our activities. Every activity has a reaction. And people in this Western uncivilization in which we are nowadays living, they have been forcefully made to forget God and their higher selves, to be unconnected from it, to be so distracted, especially by digital media, but also by the poison everywhere around, in the food, in the water, in the air, and everything, and also by so many broken relationships that it's very hard to get up enough faith, trust, to open up to something that is so direct and so eye-opening. Like here, Srila Prabhupada's class was very open. It can be refreshing for the parched mind, but it can be also a little heavy to hear. And in Srimad Bhagavatam we continue now to hear from the 26th chapter of the 5th canto, which describes the hellish planets. Normally people, they don't like to hear from hell, you know. Why not? We like to forget that this is there, suffering is there. We try to forcefully be happy, and we think that we are the doers in the material consciousness. But we actually not. And if we don't abide by the laws of the state, we have to go to the prison house. Welcome to the material world. Very good. We are all in it together. But together we can also go back home to Godhead by Harinam Sankirtan Yagya. Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. Kalau Nasti, Eva Gatyanyata. There's no other way. There's no other way. There's no other way. Simply chant Hare Krishna. And what keeps us chanting Hare Krishna? The devotee association. And we can see here also in this short section from the Transcendental Diary how even though it was a little late when Srila Prabhupada finished that program, still the people stayed on to see a film depicting Krishna consciousness around the world. So they feel already that attraction to get to know more what is Krishna consciousness, and otherwise they would not stay so long. Normally everyone has to work the other day and, you know. Okay, so then we will stop here if you don't have any comments or questions. And we'll start another day tomorrow. Questions, comments? Remarkable points? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Shavanarutanam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Shrimvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Vyabhadrani Virunuti Suritsatam Nashtapayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloki Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki. Bevor man aus dem Srimad Bhagavatam vorträgt, dass das wahre Mittel zum Sieg ist, sollte man Narayana, der höchsten Persönlichkeit Gottes, Narayana Rishi, dem allerhöchsten menschlichen Wesen, und Mutter Saraswati Devi, der Göttin der Gelehrsamkeit, und Srila Vyasadeva, dem Verfasser, seine achtungsvollen Erbietungen darbieten. Shri Krishna, der Paramatma, die Überseele im Herzen eines jeden, und der wohlmeinende Freund des aufrichtigen Geweihten ist, entfernt den Wunsch nach materiellem Genuss aus dem Herzen desjenigen, der sich an seinen Botschaften erfreut. Diese Botschaften sind in sich selbst tugendhaft, wenn sie richtig gehört und gechantet werden. Wenn man regelmäßig aus dem Srimad Bhagavatam hört und dem Reingeweihten dient, wird alles, was für das Herz leidvoll ist, fast gänzlich vernichtet. Und der transzendentale, liebevolle Dienst für den glorreichen Herrn, der mit erlesenen Hymnen gepriesen wird zu einer unwiderruflichen Tatsache. Das muss ich jetzt mal loswerden. Das Srimad Bhagavatam, this is such a nectar, it is so auspicious. And simply by regularly hearing and serving Srimad Bhagavatam, all their natas are practically vanquished. Almost completely nullified. Isn't that amazing? What a nice process. So would you like to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, or maybe you have something more important to do? Okay, so we'll read now Srimad Bhagavatam. So as I said, we are in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the hellish planets, chapter 26, and today we continue with verse 18. So the verse is in prose, so I will just read it. Or should I again split it, Dara? Soll ich wieder so einzelne Wortstücke lesen, dass ihr das einfach so wiederholen könnt? Ich habe das mal gesehen, wie Srila Prabhupada das gemacht hat mit jemand, der vorgechantet hat, obwohl es auch ein Versmaß war am Anfang. Und der hat dann das auch immer so stückweise gemacht. Oder lieber ganz lesen. Ja, weiß. Du bist meine Autorität. Ich lese einfach den ganzen, okay, gut. Yastvi hava asang vipachyashnati yatkinchanupanatam animitta panchayagyo vayasa sangstutasa paratra krimi bhojane narakadhame nipatatis tapashatta sahasra yojane krimi kundi krimi bhuta svayam krimi eva bhakshyamana krimi bhojano yavat tat apratta prahutaro nivesham atmanang yatayati. Okay, word by word translation. Yaha, any person who, to, but, iha, in this life, va, or, asang vipajya, without dividing, ashnati, eats, yatkinchana, whatever, upanatam, obtained by Krishna's grace, animita, not performing, panchayagya, the 5 kinds of sacrifice, vayasa, with the crows, sangstuta, who is described as equal. Shashigonitai ki. Saha, such a person, paratra, in the next life, krimi bhojane, named krimi bhojana, naraka adhame, in the most abominable of all hells, nipatati, falls down, tatra, there, shata sahasra yojane, measuring 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles, krimikunde, in a lake of worms, Krimibhuta, becoming one of the worms. Svayam, he himself. Krimibihi, by the other worms. Eva, certainly. Bhakshyamanaha, being eaten. Krimibhojana, eating worms. Yavat, as long as. Tat, that lake is wide. Aprata aprahuta, unshared and unoffered food. Araha, one who eats. Anivesham, who has not performed atonement. Atmanam, to himself. Yatayate, gives pain. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. A person is considered no better than a crow if, after receiving some food, he does not divide it among guests. old men, and children, but simply eats it himself. Or if he eats it without performing the 5 kinds of sacrifice. After death he is put into the most abominable hell known as Krimibojana. In that hell is a lake 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles wide, and filled with worms. He becomes a worm in that lake and feeds on the other worms there, who also feed on him. Unless he atones for his actions before his death, such a sinful man remains in the hellish lake of Krimibojana for as many years as there are yojanas in the width of the lake. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.13, Yakya Shishtasena Santu Mujyanti Savakil Vishai Punjate Te Tvakam Papa Ya Pachanti Atmakaranat. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins, because they eat food which is first offered for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment will rarely eat only sin. All food is given to us by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eko Bahunam Yu Vidatati Karma. The Lord supplies everyone with the necessities of life. Therefore we should acknowledge His mercy by performing yajna, sacrifice. This is the duty of everyone. Indeed, the sole purpose of life is to perform yajna. According to Krishna, Bhagavad Gita 3.9, Yajna tat kama nunyatra lokuyam kama bandhana tadatam karma kantaya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain unattached and free from bondage. If we do not perform yajna and distribute prasad to others, our lives are condemned. Only after performing yajna and distributing the prasad to all dependents, children, brahmanas and old men, should one eat. However, one who cooks only for himself or his family is condemned, along with everyone he feeds. After death he is put into the hell known as Krimibojana. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Shakshurunmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandiham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kangalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagaratam Sagana Raghunattam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabantu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vandavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Vanamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Rupyascha Kripasanubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, nochmal den Vers. Yastvihava asam vibhashyas yashnati yat kinchanu panatam anamitta panchayagyo Vayasa sanstuta saparatra krimibojane nara kadhamid nipatati tatra shatta sahasra yojane krimikunde krimiputa swayam krimibir eva vakshyamanaha Yamibhojano yavatat apratat prahutaru nivesham atmanam yatayate. A person is considered no better than a fool if, after receiving some food, he does not divide it among guests, old men and children, but simply eats it himself, or if he eats it without performing the 5 kinds of sacrifice. After death he is put into the most abominable hell, known as Krimi Bhojana. In that hell is a lake, 100,000 yojanas, that is 800,000 miles wide, and filled with worms. He becomes a worm in that lake and feeds on the other worms there, who also feed on him. Unless he atones for his actions before his death, such a sinful man remains in the hellish lake of Krimi Bhojana for as many years as there are yojanas in the width of the lake. That means 100,000 years. Heavy, huh? Heavy punishment. In that most abominable hell. Srila Prabhupada says here in the word for word translation. It's the worst hell of all. So, yeah. So here is what happens to someone who decides not to practice spiritual life, and especially not to offer food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to divide it, to distribute it to his dependents. And interestingly here, the dependents are said not only to be children, but also all people and brahmanas. And we know that on the Shastra, the brahmana has different functions. He is the mouth of God, so he is supposed to vibrate the transcendental message. And Sri Vishnu is also accepting food through the mouth of the brahmanas. So it's very auspicious to distribute foods. And we know from Ekadashi Vratas, when we read the stories of the different Ekadashis, it used to be that after performing certain fasting and certain activities, not sleeping in the night and everything, usually on Dvadashi, on the following day, people are also giving brahmanas, giving charity to brahmanas, gold or grains or whatever, food, and giving cows and charity. So, yeah, this is a very important principle to distribute prasadam, and I can say it's very auspicious activity. It's very inspiring, whether it be a catering or distributing prasadam to the guests on a Sunday festival, or also distributing prasadam in the streets, or in like to family and friends by making something like a nice birthday cake or something and distributing to them. So we should always be enthusiastic to distribute prasadam. And Srila Prabhupada said that this is especially for the householders. Very good to live by that activity. And we can see practically here in Germany how Rajendra Kumar Prabhu, he is a very nice example of doing that. And how he is so successful that he also has to share his bookings with other devotees to make caterings. So people, they like prasadam, food offered to Supreme Lord. And another point that came to my awareness that I remembered, Krishna reminded me, is that Krishna. Anyway, now I lost the point. I was so happy to, remember that from Krishna comes remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. So I kind of lost the track. Sorry. But anyway, we can see it is really, really important to eat prasadam. And Srila Prabhupada mentions 2 verses from Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the chapter of Karma Yoga, chapter 3, text 9 and text 13, which I also want to read, including the purport, and then we can discuss further on that. Unless you have a question already here or comment. So then 3.9. This is the general principle. Yagyartat karma no nyatra luko yang karma bandhana tat atan karma kaunteya mukta sangha samajara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise work causes bondage in the material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. And in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So this is the great principle and boon, that if we engage in the service of God according to our natural position, then the Lord protects us also from our sins and from karmic reactions. But we have to follow the law, the codes given by the government, so to say. I mean by God's government. Okay, purport. Since one has to work even for the simple maintenance of the body, the prescribed duties for a particular social position and quality are so made that that purpose can be fulfilled. Yajna means Lord Vishnu, or sacrificial performances. All sacrificial performances also are meant for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. The Vedas enjoin Yagyo Vai Vishnu. In other words, the same purpose is served whether one performs prescribed yajnas or directly serves Lord Vishnu. Krishna consciousness is therefore performance of yajna, as it is prescribed in this verse. The Varnashram institution also aims at satisfying Lord Vishnu. Varnashram Nacharavata Purushena Parapuman Vishnu Ratyate. This is from Vishnu Purana 3.8.8. Therefore one has to work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Any other work done in the material world will be a cause of bondage. For both good and evil work have their reactions, and any reaction binds the performer. Therefore one has to work in Krishna consciousness to satisfy Krishna or Vishnu. And while performing such activities, one is in a liberated state. This is the great art of doing work, and in the beginning, this process requires very expert guidance. Not only in the beginning, actually all the time, but especially in the beginning. This art requires very expert guidance. One should therefore act very diligently under the expert guidance of a devotee of Lord Krishna, or under the direct instruction of Lord Krishna himself, under whom Arjuna had the opportunity to work. Nothing should be performed for sense gratification, but everything should be done for the satisfaction of Krishna. This is the most important principle. This is the purpose of this creation, actually. That we again learn that we are not meant to enjoy our senses. The servant can never feel the pleasures of the master because they have different natures. You know, it's different, it's just different. You may have the desire to play master, but it's not working. So this practice will not only save one from the reactions of work, but also practically elevate one to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, which alone can raise one to the kingdom of God. And why do we want to go to the kingdom of God? Well, for different reasons. First of all, we are reinstated in our original spiritual identity and are most happy in that kind of state. And secondly, we can also bring many people with us. Srila Prabhupada emphasized that we should bring as many people as possible with us back to the spiritual world. Drag all of them. So if you distribute books, it's like, going to fish people. I remember when I was growing up in Christianity, Jesus asked some of his followers that you stop fishing, you fish human beings, you fish people. So that's, we try to do that too, Our aspiration is to also attract other people to Krishna consciousness. And then also by going back home, back to Godhead, we stop the sufferings of the material world. And all this ignorance which then causes one to fall into hell and to suffer even more. Like here in Kremi Bhojana is described as a lake, 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles. One has to suffer there for 100,000 years by being a worm who eats other worms and who is being eaten by other worms. Congratulations. What a nice condition. And that happens only if one does not share the food that one received and if one does not offer it. So in relation to offering the food, in chapter 3 in Bhagavad Gita we find a description why this has to be done. In text 13, Yagyashishta shinasantu mujyante savakil vishai punjate te takam papa ye pachanti atmakaranat. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Purport: the devotees of the Supreme Lord, or the person who is in Krishna consciousness, are called santas, and they are always in love with the Lord, as it is described in Brahma Samhita 5:38. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santasadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. The santas, being always in a compact of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the giver of all pleasures, or Mukunda, the giver of liberation, or Krishna, the all-attractive person, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. Therefore, such devotees always perform yagyas and different modes of devotional service, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, etc. And these performances of yagyas keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. Others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves, but also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he is both a thief and sinful? It is not possible. Therefore, in order for people to become happy in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy process of Sankirtan Yagya in full Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in the world. So here, in this particular book, it is underlined or emphasized that the performances of yagyas keep people aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. And this is something very practical. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Parasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Panivedanam. If we hear, we chant, we remember Lord Vishnu, the lotus-eyed Lord Vishnu. And if we worship him, we offer prayers, we serve him as servants, and ultimately giving up all the things, and these 9 different processes in devotional service, then basically we forget the attraction to sense gratification, because the taste just ceases like finished chewing gum. When we chew chewing gum, maybe all of us had this experience from our childhood. After a very short time, it becomes almost tasteless, and you're just chewing. So this chewing, the chewed process, is the material life, and we forget our attachment to it simply by performing these different kinds of yagyas. Yagya, because it is not meant for my satisfaction, it's meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and other people also, other saints like Guru Maharaj, other Vaishnavas. And then we can get real happiness, even while living in this body. We can actually become liberated, even while still being in the body. Isn't that amazing? And this process is generally called anatta nivritti. I mean, it's a whole process, much longer, but like anatta nivritti means to get rid of these unwanted things, unwanted habits, unwanted thoughts, conditioning and whatever, unwanted desires. And it can take different times, according to how sincere a person is. So Prabhupada said that one can become Krishna conscious in a moment or not after thousands of births. So it's really up to every individual oneself how sincerely we take up this process and we practice these things. For me, personally, I still find it difficult to practice karma yoga, to really always connect all my activities with Krishna, Sometimes I forget that and I think, okay, now I go for a walk. I'm chanting, so there's Krishna consciousness there, but I did not think, okay, I'm now doing this activity to keep my mind and body in a healthy condition for Krishna, so that I can better serve Krishna, Sometimes then I just think, oh, I want to be in the nature, it's so peaceful there, Sapagun. That means I want to enjoy. And even though I can mix it with devotional service, it's not the same. It should be all for Krishna. Then we are completely safe without creating karma. Because even if one is bound by the mode of goodness, it will still keep one here in this world. And I heard from Srila Prabhupada that unless we have no more, not even one desire to enjoy the material world, one cannot go back to Godhead. So sometimes I was thinking, in the past, when I really felt attracted to something, I was thinking, is this whatever worth that I don't return back to Godhead? That was helping me, Like, is that a good choice? This or that? And okay, maybe better, engage and renounce these things, insignificant things. Because maybe we don't have this attraction immediately, right? It is gradually building up, and by respecting all other living entities and by our loving relationship with the Lord, it grows more and more. For me, it helps really to do deity worship. I love so much doing deity worship, making garlands and offering and things, and it's so nice to have a personal relationship with God, actually, isn't it? When you cook, for example, and you meditate, how Krishna will enjoy this, how the devotees will be happy, from this cake. There is so much pleasure, isn't it? On the other hand, if we try to enjoy only for ourselves, we make a cake and we think, I am going to enjoy this cake myself, I'm not sharing it. It's a vegan cake without gluten, without sugar. I can actually eat this cake. This is not auspicious, as we hear. It's prasadam, because I offer it to the Lord, but the mentality also plays a very important role in our activities. And we are punished according to our mentality too, with our intention, our motivation, our conscience, it depends. With different responsibility grades. If we don't share the foodstuffs, even though it is offered also, we can risk to fall into this hell. And I know in the Indian culture, when guests come, like we see with the story of Maharaj Ambarisha and Durvasa Muni expected the king to only break his fast after he had eaten, But it was not possible because Dvadashi was there and the king had fasted for Ekadashi, and in order to keep that results of the Ekadashi fast, one has to break the fast in a certain time. But still, the principle is there, that first the guests have to be hosted, and then I can eat the remnants. Yeah. Okay, questions or comments? Criticism? Contribution?
How we can be on this way of another nirvana, but it is also a thing of how we give it to Krishna, right? Sometimes I know it for me. I'm not in the mode of to really on the street there's a lot of stuff, a lot of people, and a lot of influence of material nature. And I'm not always in the mood of giving and think, wow, I want to give that person something. I'm just think, I give it to you and then it's okay. And, but is this also for Krishna, or is this right? Or?
It's perfect, it's very nice. Mm-hmm. Because you see, Sankirtan is a very good training. It's like fast track of training, you know, where you learn to detach from thinking yourself to be the doer. If we think ourselves to be the doer of the activities, which in actuality are carried out by the gunas, by the three modes of material nature, thinking oneself to be the doer, then we become entangled. But in Sankirtan, you can learn that you are not the doer, right? As soon as you think you are the doer, things stop. So you are very much in touch with the super soul, right? Sometimes maybe praying, oh Krishna, what should it, you know, please inspire me to tell the proper thing to this soul, what can I say, you know, so that it takes a book, right? So it's like a very intensive school. But still, the point remains, if we like automatically just engage in our services, like chanting japa, for example, you know, without paying attention, then that also colors the day, so to say. You know, then that kind of automatic mode runs even continuously throughout the day, and we are not so much aware. To be more aware, like nowadays it's like a fashion, you know, to be more aware and more present, and it's really good because it brings one to the mode of goodness, out of passion and ignorance. It is good to stop for a moment and to, for example, count the leaves of a flower, or to breathe, or to like consciously step, you know, a few steps or something. And that can slow down the consciousness from that short train or whatever, you know, and just focus again on breathing, you know, like before chanting, sitting properly, maybe doing a few deep breaths to really, you know, be able to concentrate, and then with the feeling that there's a relationship with Krishna, you know, we chant, you know. We can offer prayers to him, please, I want to connect, I'm helpless without your mercy, kindly accept me, you know. It's not up to us. But we need to be aware that very easily the modes can creep in, the mode of passion and ignorance especially, and they can make one think that we are the doers of the activities, and then again we create karma. We lose the sight, so to say. So automatic is not good enough. We need to always, again, in every moment, why am I doing this? For whom? That's very helpful. I got very inspired. Vansikayani, she said that when she started practicing Krishna consciousness, she was doing that. No? Before your activities, you were thinking, okay, I'm doing this activity for Krishna. No? That's very inspiring. And I remember when I started here in this temple as a Bhakti, I was sometimes sharing the room with my god sister. And she put on a paper, I'm doing this service to the best of my ability with my love, or something, you know. I was like, wow, so impressed, you know. So we need that kind of focus, no? And even I also got some small insight that even if I do the activity to the best of my capacity, it is still not necessarily that which I should offer to Krishna. So I need to pray for Srimati Radharani to please be able to learn to serve her properly and be engaged in her service, and then the things become better than my ability. To really make this connection, you know, not just, okay, I rely on my own strength, which is not my strength, it's not my talents. Krishna says, I'm the ability in man. You know, and he is maintaining the body, he's making the body move and everything, you know. He's even giving us specific desires. He's like so much intricately within us, you know, so present. anyway, some thoughts.
Bezüglich der Essensverteilung, ne? Ist, im Tempel ist ja klar, da kocht ein Koch, dann kocht der Rechner und dann wird das verteilt. Aber für die Chastas zum Beispiel, diejenigen, die vielleicht zuhören, wenn sie selber das Essen essen, ohne zu verteilen, dann gehen sie in diese Richtung. Obwohl das Passage ist.
Das ist eine gute Frage. Ikayani Mataji hat für die Zuschauerschaft asked a question for the publicum, online publicum, and she asked that, okay, but in the temple we offer here the food stuff with love and devotion to Shishikunitai, and then in this way we have prasadam and it's also distributed. But what with the grihastas? If one is living somewhere and one does not share the food with someone, what happens to these people? In the Vedic high civilization, high culture, it is actually like that one is supposed to open the door after one has cooked and to shout outside 3 times that whoever is hungry, please come, to invite the people. It's a little bit uncommon here, but this is how this is practiced in the Vedic time, and we can still do that. If you know somebody, we can invite people over for lunch, for example. If you meet someone in the street, like a beggar or something, sometimes I invite beggars. Not the most abominable ones, but who appear to be kind of decent, and I don't have any Lakshmi, then I tell them, every Sunday we have a festival, and about 4:30 there's nice food stuff. Please come. Isn't it? So people can also come to the temple, but normally when we offer, of course, then at least it's offered to Krishna, and in this way also to the devatas. So that may count to some extent. But it's good to share it also with others.
Es ist possible, dass wir, wenn keiner da ist, an dem wir verteilen können, im Geiste das tun. Zum Beispiel im Geiste zuerst den Brauchen, das Opfern, den wir kennen, so, und dann Kinder, älteren Leuten, na selber ist.
Oh, das ist nice, das ist eine gute Idee. Ikayani said, okay, but is it possible if there's nobody to share the food with, that at least within the mind we can do this, ne? We can offer the food to the children, the old men, the brahmanas and whatever, that we know within the mind. And we know that it's possible to perform bhakti yoga within the mind. Yeah, why not? I would say it's completely in line with that. But still, we should not be negligent and think, okay, no, I've offered everything in the mind, and not do the endeavor, to distribute the prasadam. We need to distribute prasadam. Also, I remember Srila Prabhupada, he said that for so many miles around the temples, nobody should go hungry. I think that was related to Mayapur or Vrindavan, where there were so many hungry people, and then he said, okay, now you distribute prasadam. And we can see in Mayapur, when we are there, close to Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, so many people, Indian people, like a huge, long queue is standing there practically all day, isn't it? Or at least half the day. And they're waiting in line to get the free food. So why not? We can, like Devaki Mataji suggested yesterday, why not do food for life? Especially in these crazy times, Maybe it's a good idea to kind of, to consider, Or, as I said, we can also, of course, give donations for this purpose and participate in that. Maybe that's also helpful to support food for life distribution, because in that way we're distributing prasadam to other people. And another thing also is that in the Shastra it is also mentioned that we should share, we should maintain even the insects and snake. If there's some snake living in the house, we should feed them. And we can see that Srila Prabhupada's father, Gaur Mohan De, he was doing that. Actually. He was dealing with clothes, the textile trade, and then he put a small bowl with I think rice or something for the rats. He put there so that they would leave aside his clothes and not bite and destroy the clothes, but they would eat then the rice. So we can also think about doing that in such a way that is practical, of course. We want to keep away the rats, not invite them. Therefore we want to close the door to the backyard and everything. But anyway. Thank you very much. It's already past 9. Granta Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Pavana ki jai. Jai Nitya Guru Premanandi.